welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. Now, I don't have much to say on this subject, but I feel like it can't really go without being mentioned. That NXT had a couple of releases, some people from the Performance Center. It was mostly writers and backstage individuals and 3 wrestlers. But of course, of the releases, there were 3 big names. There was William Regal, Road Dogg, and Scott Armstrong. To some people, Dave Kapoor is a pretty big release, and maybe to a degree. I don't think we'll actually notice anybody missing. William Regal was a noticeable miss because obviously he's been one of the main veins of NXT for the last several years. And almost the entire show, during the era of the black and gold, would see William Regal several times being the authoritative commissioner. It's been about, I don't know, what about 8 years of that? I think he's been the GM of NXT the entire time. There were 3 wrestlers that was released, but we'll talk about them after we talk about William Regal. So William Regal, of course, is the big release. I think this is probably more mutual than we think, mainly because it seemed like they were trying to wrap up William Regal months ago. Before Karrion Kross even left, before this whole thing, the whole big shakeup even occurred, it seemed like they were trying to wind down William Regal and what he was doing and his effect on the show. And it seemed like after they did the sort of pseudo retirement thing, we saw less and less of William Regal. And I know that was because, he was involved with this feud with Karrion Kross, and then they did the thing where Karrion Kross beat him up, and then Samoa Joe came in, and it was just a lot of stuff going on right there, but we started seeing less and less of William Regal. Until to NXT 2.0, I think we only saw him like 2 or 3 times. I know he was on the first episode. I don't remember if he was in the second. It became, of course, noticeable that he wasn't there when he didn't even do War Games. He didn't even do the War Games thing. So he's been missing for a while. They've been kind of running this show without him. So his backstage duties, as far as I know, were that he was in global recruitment. And while that's interesting, I don't believe that it's something that WWE is really into anymore. Mainly because they have the NIL program. So anybody who works in recruitment is pretty much going to be affected by this new NIL program. Even if it's global recruitment, because now you're going to have WWE probably contacting athletic directors from colleges. More than likely know exactly where to go to find talent. They're not looking under every nook and cranny for every independent wrestler in the world anymore. So it sucks. So I know this is pretty much almost the exact same situation as what happened with Gerald Briscoe. And so much as, the recruitment mechanism has changed. So they don't really need the old-timey recruiter anymore, which sucks. I know Mark Henry was also doing a lot of recruitment for WWE, and he's also been released. Well, he didn't re-sign his contract. So that sucks. I know it's more of a emotional thing with people with William Regal because they're just used to him being there and they're used to his position in NXT. But they did a good job of phasing him out. It wasn't a sudden break like he was on TV every week and then boom, he's gone. Because that sucks. But when you have that subtle, winding down, it kind of makes things a little bit easier. You have to already be on the internet and paying attention to everything to know he was gone. Otherwise you think he's still in the back, still doing tryouts and everything, which, I'm surprised that they didn't keep him around to do. That's a bit of a surprise, but I don't know what they're doing. I don't know who they're going to replace him with, so it's all confusion, and I'd rather not deal in confusion. I would rather just say William Regal will definitely be missed. But this is, again, the last vestiges of the black and gold on screen are pretty much over. Now, that doesn't mean that the black and gold, the heart of it, the actual core, is still NXT because all the head trainers are still there, as far as I know. They did release Allison Danger, aka Kathy Carino, the sister of Steve Carino. She's still there. Well, he's still there rather, but she was released. Scott Armstrong, referee, him and his brother Road Dogg. Road Dogg had a health scare, I believe it was last year or 2 years ago. He seemed to be taking it pretty well. He said that it was just business that he was released. He was in creative. I don't know, what ideas are his and which ones aren't. It's very difficult to tell, but it seems like they released 4 members of the creative team, and I'm guessing it's the NXT creative team because Road Dogg was on creative, Dave Kapoor, Ryan Katz, and George Carroll. Katz and Carroll were writers, and Kapoor was senior vice president of creative. So, they're probably going to change the creative of NXT. Maybe these people have already started being moved out of the way. We don't know. But the creative of NXT has been okay. The NXT 2.0. If they did not have a significant hand in what the cards for New Year's Evil and all that kind of stuff looked like, then I think it will be all right. If they were significant in building some of these storylines or building some of these guys, then it might be problematic. But we don't know because it's not like there's credits at the end of the episode that tells you who wrote what and who did what. But we'll see. We'll have to see, of course, in the coming days and weeks if they decide to have somebody to go on a podcast and say what led to you leaving NXT. How much do you really hate NXT? How much did Triple H give you freedom, and then Vince McMahon came in with his evil ideas and forced them down your throat, and it was Bruce Pritchard and Kevin Dunn forcing you to change this and forcing you to change that, and what did you think about all the guys leaving and all that kind of stuff? That stuff will happen in time. They're not going to let it not happen. The internet isn't, going to try to squeeze whatever they can squeeze out of these guys and make a story, even if there's not one there. So that's interesting. So we'll be looking to see if that's going to actually be different. So now let's get into some of the wrestlers that have been released. It was Hideki Suzuki, Timothy Thatcher, and Danny Burch. They're firing Diamond Mine a little at a time. Diamond Mine was out there. Tyler Russ was gone. And then for some reason, Hideki Suzuki was still there. Even though he wasn't wrestling, he wasn't coaching, he wasn't talking, he wasn't doing anything. And now he's gone. Not surprised, if we're being honest. He wasn't doing anything. He really just stood there. I think he was a coach in IRL, as in he was really doing coaching duties in NXT. I don't see why he was released, but he's not a wrestler as far as wrestling matches because he never wrestled any. As a coach, I don't know what he was doing, so can I really say that he's going to be missed? No. Timothy Thatcher and Danny Burch. I think Danny Burch is kind of like, he was a part of that trio with Pete Dunne and Oney Lorcan, where it was fun watching those guys really hit people and work really hard, but they had no personality, no real character to them. They were just really 3 hard-working, hard-hitting guys, and that's fine. If you're a fan of the older school, 70s and 80s wrestling, some of the early 2000s Ring of Honor style stuff, then that's really all you needed. But in WWE, you never really exist off work rate alone. You got to have a personality. And Timothy Thatcher is the same way. Timothy Thatcher is one of those guys who worked in independence for 20 years, finally got his shot in NXT. I think he did very well. I think that he should probably still be there. Personally, I wouldn't have fired Timothy Thatcher, mainly because I think that the Thatch Can promos were really good. And I think they actually fit NXT 2.0 better than they fit the black and gold NXT, if we're being honest. Sure, Andre Chase is doing something similar, but I think that's really what you kind of needed. It's like, if you're doing a college sports kind of thing with Andre Chase, it would be nice for him to have a rival school. That's almost always a thing when you look at, even anime. You'll have My Hero Academia have Class 1A, but then you'll have Class 1A, 1B, or something like that, and you have to have a rival class or a rival school. And I think, having, Chase U and then, whatever Thatcher's school would be as rival schools would have been fun. Would have been a fun storyline that you could have done and utilized Timothy Thatcher to his highest potential. But as a wrestler, I kind of foresaw this was going to happen when they wrote him off TV several weeks ago, and he never came back. This was around the time when they released a bunch of other people, So this kind of thing is going to be ongoing, I'm guessing. Who knows what the hell they want NXT to look like and what the hell they want NXT to be at this point. But I'm not really torn up about any of the releases. William Regal, that one sucks, but, they had been, like I said, they had been kind of, riding that wave, a little bit less and less over time. As long as it doesn't affect his son, Bailey Matthews, who is still in NXT UK, as long as it doesn't affect him, and it doesn't seem like it would. So this ought to be pretty cool, It still sucks, of course, to see more people being released, but it mostly seems to be Office people now. They released 3 wrestlers, and they kept keeping a lot of the Office folk. So it's not as many people as you think, to be quite honest, when it comes to they're killing off NXT. It's like, yeah, on screen, they really don't want too many of the people from the past, but there's still some there, and the training staff at NXT is still, of course, there. So, it sucks, and there is definitely a place for William Regal and a Road Dogg in the wrestling business. But maybe WWE felt like they got all they could get out of them, and maybe it's time somewhere for them to freshen up and do something else. But I would be more interested if well, let's say this, because I think this is kind of important, especially talking about William Regal, is the inability to say goodbye. Because we did get that pump fake of the retirement several weeks ago with William Regal, and we never went back to it. But it seems like that would have been something that would have been nice if William Regal would have gotten a chance to, at New Year's Eve, will come out and say, hey, I know last couple of weeks, you haven't seen me around as much, and this is why, and that I'm saying goodbye to NXT. It's been in. Just tell the story, because it seemed like what he was trying to do before is, explain what was going on, and that he was no longer in control of the show, and yada, yada, yada. I think if he would have done that on television, this would have bothered people less. I think this bothered people a lot more because it seemed sudden to them, even though it wasn't really to me. It seemed sudden to them, and it seemed like it was unnecessary. And a lot of people are kind of like, what about the loyalty? 20 years. I'm just kind of like, they're not kicking him in the street with no money or anything like that. He's probably got enough money to live off of forever. And if he wants to come back, I don't see why he would never be able to come back. Just because you release somebody doesn't mean that there's animosity there. It could just be, again, they're going in a different direction creatively. They're going in a different direction in terms of training. They might just be doing something different. So, we'll never know. But what do you guys think? Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace.
MagMongoSlade. Best house I ever drew, Daddy.